In natural systems, you're always going to find some level of disturbance. Not a lot, but some. Just think about fire, floods, hurricanes, and then even things like animal migration. Think about migration across the Serengeti, or in our country, migration of bison over the plains. Each ecosystem adapts to disturbance in its own way, and in some senses, this is how natural systems reset themselves. In my native South Carolina, for example, we have longleaf pine ecosystems that require fire every 3 to 5 years, really, to promote growth of the longleaf pine and get rid of some of the scrub oak and blackjack oak that tends to come up. So these are good examples of disturbance. Now, in our agro-ecosystems, we also have disturbance. Part of managing agro-ecosystems is really managing disturbance. So we see these things in terms of physical, chemical, and biological disturbance. I want to focus in this video mainly on limiting physical disturbance in the sense of limiting tillage. If you go back in our Science of Soil Health series, you'll see Dr. Klodivko state that in natural systems, you don't see a tillage implement run through the soils, and yet you see water going into the ground, you see plants growing, you see nutrients recycling. So what is it about natural systems that don't require all that much disturbance? In the past, we know that tillage has been used to prepare seed beds and to control weeds. The fact is that tillage destroys biology, exacerbates compaction, and burns up organic matter. When we were farming on small scale with animals, that wasn't really much of a problem. But as mechanization took over, we saw some of the disastrous results of excessive tillage. So the question is, how do we get plants in the ground and deal with weeds without tillage? For my 1,000 square foot garden in the summer, well, that's kind of easy because I just take transplants, open up a little hole in my residue, and then put the transplants in, and that allows my garden to grow with very, very little disturbance. Eric and Robbie McClam at City Roots do the same thing in summer. They have transplants and put them in, and for some of their winter crops as well. They've tried direct seeding through some of their residue. That has met with limited success simply because they don't have access to herbicides. So with Eric and Robbie, they're still working on that, and there are some limitations. They used to till about 7 or 8 times a year. Today, they might till twice a year. So that's a huge improvement, and we can see that in terms of their root depth and in terms of their compaction as well. My row cropping friends like Jason Carter do have the advantage in the sense that they are able to use herbicides and really keep the soil disturbance to a minimum. So to plant a seed, all they have to do is have a coulter to open up the residue, put the seed in, and then have a closing wheel to close it up, and out comes the seed. So that's a really effective way of going no-till. Jason used to subsoil his fields, and he's stopped that, and as he's applied various soil health principles, he's saved a ton of money, especially in energy costs. Not pulling a tillage implement through that soil, that big old subsoiler, really saves him a lot of money. Bottom line, it translates to more dollars per acre for Jason. To recap what we said in this video, tillage ought to be a last resort because it tends to be a short-term fix. The prudent farmer and gardener are beginning to see the value of low disturbance systems, and I hope you've learned something from this video.